Welcome to the series, To Preserve, Protect, and Defend the Soul of America. Today, we are examining the modern culture war, the intense fights over critical race theory, book banning, and the term woke, and how education became a political weapon in 21st century America. Between 2021 and 2024, state legislatures launched an aggressive campaign targeting public classrooms. Restrictive bills swept across the country, limiting how teachers could discuss race, history, and identity, and directly restricting students' access to information. The sheer volume of these actions is staggering. In that 3-year span, more than 40 states introduced legislation to restrict classroom discussions. In a single year, organized groups demanded the removal of over 2,000 unique book titles from public school libraries. Look at the local school board meetings from this period, and you see what looks like an organic uprising. Hundreds of highly concerned parents swarming microphones, holding protest signs, and demanding changes to their local school curricula. But that local outrage breaks down when you examine the actual legislation. The bills introduced in dozens of different states share identical legal language. The lists of books challenged at those local school boards target the exact same titles across the country simultaneously. This is not spontaneous, neighborhood-level activism. Public education has been converted into a manufactured battlefield, driven by a highly coordinated, top-down political strategy. To build this strategy, political operators needed a target. Critical race theory was originally a niche framework for legal and policy analysis developed in law schools. The word woke, meanwhile, began in the 1930s as African-American vernacular, simply meaning alert to racial injustice. Both terms underwent a process called semantic capture. This happens when a word's original meaning is intentionally hollowed out and transformed through coordinated rhetorical effort, giving it a completely different political utility. Conservative activist Christopher Rufo openly documented this strategy. He explicitly stated his goal was to rebrand critical race theory into a catch-all villain, attaching the academic label to a wide range of progressive ideas so the public would read about any social justice issue and immediately think CRT. This newly weaponized framework was then aimed at inclusive historical curricula. When initiatives like the 1619 Project reframed America's founding timeline around the consequences of slavery, they were instantly met with coordinated political panic. Major political figures seized on this momentum. Politicians built entire electoral coalitions and presidential campaigns around an anti-woke posture, using the fear of classroom indoctrination to rally voters. Semantic capture provided the mechanism. By stripping the context from complex academic theories and cultural phrases, strategists successfully turn them into highly effective, terrifying bogeymen for the voting public. This is why restrictive bills, like Florida's Stop Woke Act, didn't remain isolated. Nearly identical legislation magically appeared simultaneously in state houses from Missouri to Texas. These bills were drafted by national think tanks and donor networks as boilerplate templates. They are handed directly to state legislators, intentionally bypassing the slow, democratic process of local school boards evaluating their own community's needs. The primary justification for all this is parents' rights, but as counter-protests reveal, that framing is highly selective. The movement uses state power to protect the comfort of one specific demographic, typically white conservative parents, while actively suppressing the rights of Black, immigrant, and LGBTQ parents to have their own family's existence and histories acknowledged in the classroom. This machinery relies on a deeply entrenched media feedback loop. Modern broadcasting and social media algorithms operate on an attention economy where outgroup hostility and moral outrage reliably generate the highest engagement. A parent reading an out-of-context book passage at a local meeting is broadcast on partisan cable news. This goes viral, triggering algorithmic rewards, which prompts a flood of angry messages to the school, which then fuels state legislators to propose new restrictions, creating the exact material needed for the next news cycle. The culture war is a highly profitable industry. The financial logic of contemporary media and the opportunism of national political networks work together to manufacture a continuous demand for outrage. The United States has a long history of moral panics. Look at the 1950s crusade against comic books, or the Satanic Panic of the 1980s. Time and again, media-amplified threats to children easily override basic standards of evidence and professional expertise. But unlike those past episodes, which eventually burned themselves out, today's crisis is dangerously institutionalized. It is backed by durable electoral coalitions and a media infrastructure designed to sustain the conflict indefinitely. The direct result is a First Amendment crisis for educators. Teachers and librarians are trapped by intentionally vague laws, facing professional ruin, harassment, and even the threat of criminal liability just for keeping certain materials on their shelves. Instead of navigating that legal minefield, many school districts are preemptively self-censoring. They are completely emptying library shelves rather than risking severe prosecution. The true casualties of this war are the students. By stripping away books and sanitizing curricula, these policies deny children an honest, accurate understanding of their own nation's complexities and failures. Inclusive history and diverse literature actually build civic engagement. Erasing that history to protect a specific demographic's comfort fractures a child's ability to understand the reality of the world they are inheriting. The survival of a democracy requires citizens capable of handling the truth. Turning the school library into a political battlefield degrades the epistemic foundation of the nation itself. This video is based on the essay The Culture War from our ongoing series. If you want to dive deeper into this subject, you can find the original text through the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more in-depth analyses.